name is Shane O'Donnell and welcome to this presentation of developing a participatory arts intervention to promote mental health amongst men at risk of suicide. This presentation is part of the School of Nursing and Midwifery at QUB, which is an event to mark Men's Health Week in 2021, which begins on the 14th of June. These talks are part of a number of events held on behalf of Athena Swan, which is a gender equality initiative which all universities in the UK and Ireland are signed up to. Our school currently holds a silver award. I'd like to thank my supervisors, Karen Galway and Maria Lohan, who provided me with lots of guidance during this study. So what's this study all about? Well, male mental health is an issue of growing public health concern. The male suicide rate in Northern Ireland is 3 times higher than the female rate, and men living in areas of high social disadvantage are considered a particularly vulnerable group. Men are often reticent to seek support for mental health issues, but we know if we adopt gender-sensitive approaches to mental health promotion, like delivering them in the community setting or using strengths-based approaches or finding the hook, that men are often more willing to engage. Participatory arts interventions have been found to have many positive mental health outcomes, but they're often underutilized by men. Does that mean the participatory arts are not for men, or that we're not offering participatory arts to men in the right way, using some of those gender-sensitive approaches? So that was the aim of this thesis, was to develop a gender-sensitive participatory arts intervention to promote mental health amongst men in areas of high social disadvantage. To address this aim, we conducted the study in 3 stages. So stage 1 was to identify the evidence base through a systematic review. Stage 2 was to understand men's lived mental health and participatory arts experiences. And stage 3 was to co-design the intervention with men and service providers, using the information from stage 1 and 2 to identify preferences for content features and approaches to delivery. But today, because I'm a bit short on time, I'm just going to be talking you through the findings from stage 2. So a little bit about the participants. So 41 men participated in the study and the average age was 65 years old. Participants were largely recruited through men's sheds who were already engaging in participatory arts in the most disadvantaged communities in Northern Ireland, which is probably an explanatory factor for the high age group. As you can see, 46% were married, 39% living alone, 48% retired, and 44% unemployed or away from work due to illness. So what were the key issues contributing to distress? So a key issue was social isolation as a result of narrowing social circles, got to do with older age, bereavement, mobility issues, living alone, retirement, and illness. Intergenerational poverty and community deprivation appeared to compound this connection amongst this group, with many feeling left behind by local government, socially excluded based on income, and generally feeling looked down upon. Whilst many men felt compelled to address their issue of isolation, the idea that men's groups are for retired men or men with mental health problems acted as a barrier. I suppose it's in this context that seeking support from a men's group appeared to compound men's own perceived vulnerabilities around mental health issues or being out of work. Men spoke of loss relating to various transitions in later life, such as retirement, unemployment, bereavement, marriage breakdown, physical illness, and cognitive deterioration. A lack of meaningful occupation following retirement resulted in a loss of routines and daily habits, which challenged many men's sense of purpose, control, and their identity, which was largely constructed around their employment. There was evidence of a more sort of acute awareness of vulnerability represented in an ailing physical body and a decline in cognitive function. So masculinity appeared to be inextricably linked to, I suppose, independence and doing. However, when men were faced with the enigma of an impaired body and mind no longer able to do, there was a sense of relinquishing control and independence. With many of the men, I suppose, struggling to recalibrate their masculine identity beyond the sphere of work and within the confines of an aging body and mind, sort of defeatist attitudes about the future began to creep in, and increased time spent sitting around the house sort of reinforced this lack of purpose and shift in masculine identity that many men felt. Finally, there was a number of men who experienced mental health issues as adults, which they attributed to adverse experiences during childhood. This ranged from more chronic factors like exposure to political violence during the Troubles, severe deprivation, to instances of corporal punishment in school, witnessing parental suicide attempts, and sexual abuse, as you can see in the quotes here. But there was also many benefits of participatory art. So the first one there around connectedness, participatory arts offered men a route to flourish in friendships and extended social networks, which provided social support and alleviated feelings of disconnection. It helped to strengthen, or participatory arts helped to strengthen a sense of collective identity through working towards a collective goal. It also represented a shared interest around which friendships were formed and sort of provided men with a reason to socialize. It facilitated a comfortable space for men to engage in casual conversations and reciprocate peer support around mental health issues. And because the focus was on the activity and not on the conversation, connection or emotional support were sort of byproducts of shared activities rather than explicit objectives. And this sort of helped to preserve a masculine identity and lessen perceptions of men's own need and vulnerability, because in their mind they were focusing on the art and not on talking about their emotions, even though that was the outcome. Participatory arts also assisted with reigniting a sense of purpose, routine, and self-efficacy by being seen as a meaningful, constructive, and positive activity that was a worthwhile use of time. The development of a routine and purpose resonated with the masculine concepts of discipline and control, where men seemed to regain a bit of control and order that they may have previously associated with employment. Learning new artistic skills and knowledge was particularly rewarding experience that elicited a sense of achievement and a sort of self-realization that these men were still capable of personal growth. An improved sense of self-esteem and self-efficacy was also copper-fastened by the production of sort of tangible art products that also personified increased competencies. Performing for other people or gifting art products also provided a sense of affirmation and validation that helped many men feel useful again. Finally, participatory arts provided men with an outlet for emotional processing. Participatory arts provided a distraction from difficult emotions, and some men put them in a reverie through sort of complete absorption in a task. Participatory arts also provided men with an opportunity to self-reflect and to attach new and deeper meanings to emotions or past experiences. This provided men with an alternative outlet to express emotions and to take off the mask, which acted as a form of therapeutic catharsis. And you can sort of see that in the quote that Arnold provides here. I think this holds unique opportunities for men to appraise and attach new meanings to past experiences, current transitions, and sort of the shifting masculine identities that men talked about. And finally, just the 7 lessons we found to improve male engagement to participatory art. So I'll try and get through these a little bit quicker because I'm running out of time. So men, so familiar space, familiar face. So men favor participatory arts that are embedded in the community setting and they feel familiar and formal and relaxed. So we should also probably deliver participatory arts to existing groups of men or men who share similar social backgrounds. This is important for overcoming fears of feeling silly or emasculated through engagement in participatory arts, which might be construed as an effeminate activity. Participatory arts should be framed around men's interests rather than concepts like health or creativity, which may carry stigmas with them. One such kind of value that we found useful was framing participatory arts around men's desire for altruism or to give back. Lesson 3, facilitators should adopt strengths-based approaches by using existing strengths and capacities within the group. So this might be operationalized by having peer-led approaches or using activities that discuss the strengths and positives of men. And because men often favor action-oriented approaches, maybe using active participation rather than passive participation in arts. Lesson 4 then, to strike a balance between flexibility and structure in order to enable autonomy and ownership. So probably consult with men in the development process, incorporate feedback loops into the intervention, and be flexible with the arrangement of the session. Lesson 5, pay attention to male-friendly language. So try and use informal, non-medical, and non-technical language. and maybe try and avoid language that's reminiscent of school or that might reinforce a sense of authority. Lesson 6, men perceive themselves to be outcome orientated. So if they can imagine what the end product would look like and how they will create that product, it tends to work better than sort of ill-defined activities. So participatory arts should kind of have clear and tangible processes and outcomes. And finally, lesson 7, men know the facilitators should be encouraging, non-hierarchical, empathetic, relatable, non-judgmental, and sort of down to earth to fit in with the informal and relaxed environment. So try and avoid a sort of authoritative figure. So all of this information helped us to pick digital storytelling as maybe a useful intervention to promote mental health amongst men. We showed this to men as part of the co-design workshops who tended to agree with us, and we worked with these men to, I suppose, refine a digital storytelling intervention to make it more suitable to men, which resulted in the development of the Living Legacy program. If you'd like to find out more about my systematic review or about my thesis and what that Living Legacy intervention looks like, you can follow the links on the screen here to my published article on systematic review and my thesis. If you would like more information on any of this study or on this presentation, please feel free to contact me on the email address on the screen. Thanks very much for listening.